It's the arrival of the thought police, and it's utterly hypocritical. Jimmy Kimmel is entitled to say what he says. Some people may find it distasteful, but the Americans do take free speech very, very seriously. They take the First Amendment very seriously. More than 90% of Americans think it's a very important part of what it is to be an American, and constitutionally. I think I read this morning that Tucker Carlson, the far-right broadcaster, has also condemned Jimmy Kimmel being fired. If that is true, then at least he does recognise, again, that if you apply one rule to a set of people whose views you disagree with, it's very easy to apply that rule to people like Tucker Carlson further down the line. And it's happening in plain sight that the people on the right in America champion free speech. They condemn us in the UK for the Online Safety Act and for censorship. But the minute you say something that they disagree with, they cancel you.
Donald Trump supporters often want to point to Britain and Europe for failing on free speech. Free speech has been one of the themes we've had this week, I think. But now the US late-night TV host Jimmy Kimmel has been taken off air because of a comment he made on Monday's show about Republicans using Charlie Kirk's death.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them, and doing everything they can to score political points from it. You can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
Which is all quite innocent stuff, you'd think. But one of the questions we're trying to determine is there any sort of new McCarthyism flowing through the American establishment at the moment?
Shall we turn to talk about Donald Trump and MAGA? Because one of the things that we have been focused on over the last couple of days, of course, is the Donald Trump visit. But at the same time, at the back end of last week, of course, the debate in America and here too was around Charlie Kirk. It was around what had happened to Charlie Kirk and the responses to it. Jenny, there has been a free speech debate off the back of this, but one of the things that's happened in the last 24 hours is Jimmy Kimmel, a huge American TV star, has been suspended for complaining that the MAGA gang are using the death of Charlie Kirk to score political points. Does that feel right to you?
That he has been suspended from his job? I mean, absolutely not. It's kind of crazy, isn't it? It's perverse. You've got people who say they're standing up for free speech, people like Charlie Kirk, who was determined to defeat people through argument, and anybody who says anything counter to this kind of beatification of him is criticised. And in fact, I heard what Jimmy Kimmel said. Jimmy Kimmel didn't criticise Charlie Kirk, anything Charlie Kirk had said. He didn't criticise, he didn't support the killing of Charlie Kirk at all. He simply made the point that there has been some gymnastics to try and make the person who allegedly killed him fit into a neat box of being a far leftist, which isn't the case. I mean, the suspect's father is a diehard MAGA, according to the suspect. I mean, it doesn't fit into that box. So I think he was describing something quite true, and he was expressing an opinion. And it is really, really worrying that America is in a state where you have somebody who was a kind of vanguard of free speech being killed, and the solution to it is for people to lose their jobs or to be cancelled and ostracised because they're not fully submitting to this idea being presented by the far right.
We've heard a couple of times, Ed, on the programme this week that there is now a real move from those on the right who think free speech will apply and should apply to them, but if it's something that they don't agree with, then they will come down incredibly hard on anybody who has a dissenting opinion, if you like. That this really has stepped into a very different world.
Yeah, it's grotesque. It's the arrival of the thought police, and it's utterly hypocritical. Jimmy Kimmel is entitled to say what he says. Some people may find it distasteful, but the Americans do take free speech very, very seriously. They take the First Amendment very seriously. More than 90% of Americans think it's a very important part of what it is to be an American, and constitutionally. I think I read this morning that Tucker Carlson, the far-right broadcaster, has also condemned Jimmy Kimmel being fired. If that is true, then at least he does recognise, again, that if you apply one rule to a set of people whose views you disagree with, it's very easy to apply that rule to people like Tucker Carlson further down the line. And it is just, it's happening in plain sight that the people on the right in America champion free speech. They condemn us in the UK for the Online Safety Act and for censorship. But the minute you say something that they disagree with, they cancel you. I mean, the thing that really appalled me was this idea that they were going through the tweets and so on of American civil servants and military personnel to see if they'd said anything disobliging in the light of the Charlie Kirk murder, which everybody has condemned, in order to push them out of their jobs. I mean, people will say horrible and distasteful things, but free speech is paramount, and it cannot be one rule for one set of people and another rule for another.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson has gone even further, I think, Ed, and said that he thinks that this is the Trump administration looking to restrict the free speech of the population in America and using what is happening now as a way to do that. But it's a really fascinating debate, and you're right. There may well be an opportunity for people to ask questions about freedom of speech at that press conference later on today.
Well, let's ask what you'd ask, because I think that's we've been debating this all day. We've had some great questions, and it's a real question of how you go about thinking about the role of journalism when it comes to these sort of matters. You've got the most powerful man in the world and Keir Starmer. They've got the eyes of the world are upon them both. What question do you plausibly ask, and what's the purpose of the question? Is it something that tries to let them open up about their relationship? Is it about Epstein? Is it about migration? Jenny, how would you approach something like this?
Well, I have to say, I really hate the kind of gotcha questions or questions where you're trying to generate a news line or show how clever you are as a reporter. I've always felt really uncomfortable being put in a position when I'm expected to do that. So I wouldn't do that. I think I would probably want to ask them both if they would care to take a walk with me around London, and if not, then why not? Because I want to know how aware Donald Trump is about how he is being received here. And also, I would like him to articulate his fears about London, because there are some crazy ideas in America about how unsafe and Islamified this city of mine. And I would love to hear him articulate them properly when put on the spot by a Londoner.
That's interesting. Here's a question from Simon. If you could change places with any other world leader for a day, what would be the one thing you'd do differently? And we had a couple of these quite thought experiment questions, with the idea that actually you've got to give something of yourself to them. Jenny's kind of approaching that in a sort of similar way. Ed, what would you ask if you had the chance?
Well, I hear what Jenny says about not asking a gotcha question, but if you're in front of the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of Great Britain, given the incredible political climate we now live in, the opportunity for a gotcha question just presents itself in spades. The obvious question for a journalist to ask would be about Mandelson and Epstein, because it's obviously something that Donald Trump doesn't particularly want to talk about. So you could ask if the President thinks there'll be any more resignations on the back of the Epstein birthday book, or what he thinks of Peter Mandelson resigning. You could ask the President what is the truth about why he's orange. I mean, what is going on? We do want to know the answers. Does he use makeup or not?
Yeah, is it fake tan or is it a sunbed? That's the question, isn't it?
Can you imagine if there's only 4 questions allowed and they say, OK, now Ed Vaizey representing Times Radio, why are you orange?
Why are you orange?
You'd go down in either fame or infamy.
I think that is a question that people really... Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was looking at the pictures of him and sitting next to Kate yesterday, and it is just incredibly striking. I mean, maybe it's carrots. People say if you eat a lot of carrots that can happen. I want to know the answer to that question.
There we go. Yeah. I'd ask him to give Keir Starmer advice on how to deal with migration, because I think that's a legitimate question, because one of the... Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to interrupt, but you're quite right. I mean, the obvious mischievous question to ask is simply, because Trump loves to riff, so you just say, Mr. President, the Prime Minister is at the bottom of the opinion polls, he's lost a huge amount of public support, what pieces of advice would you give him to get his government back on track? And then you are off to the races. Yeah,
I think that's... Could a political correspondent ask that, Kate, do you think? The sort of just, what would your advice be to Keir Starmer?
I think, you definitely could, and we've seen variations of that before. One of my colleagues in the Westminster lobby has messaged in with what, I think we've talked about it on this programme before, but one of the most sort of lobby questions is kind of a similar thing, and it was incredibly brave. It was Chris Hope, and he asked Francois Hollande in 2014, the direct question, Monsieur le Président, I know this is a very sensitive topic for you. Do you think your private life has made France an international joke? Are you still having an affair with Julie Gaillet, and do you wish she was here? Was the question that was asked. Well, I don't think he answered it as fulsomely as Chris Hope would have hoped that he did. But that was an example of one of those questions where everybody wants to know the answer.
Yeah.
But is anyone brave enough to ask?
Is Epstein in that area, Jenny, do you think? Is Epstein a gotcha question? Is it, or... Because there's a great question to Keir Starmer, which is, if you fired Mandelson for being too close to Epstein because he was unfit to serve your government, does that mean the president next to you is unfit because of his relationship with Epstein?
I mean, we all know that Mandelson was hired probably because his links to people like Epstein, which meant that he would be able to ingratiate himself to Donald Trump. I mean, make no mistake, it's a kind of calculated thing that he moved in those kinds of circles. Therefore, Trump would like him. I think, it would certainly help to shed more light on that. Trump always shuts down any question about Epstein. Maybe the gotcha question should be, would you sign this bit of paper for me, Donald Trump, so I can compare it with what was in the book that you so definitely did sign?
Yeah, that would be a moment as well. I mean, the stress for you, Kate, doing it, I don't envy the people having to do it.
It makes me feel sicker than anything else. It is more terrifying. And it's more terrifying because you've got to stand up, you've got to keep your voice stable, you can't have your hands shaking, the question has to be coherent, you don't want to read it off a piece of paper, and you know that all of your colleagues are probably thinking, that's daft, I wouldn't have asked that, why did she say it that way? And you can't, as Joe Coburn was saying earlier, you can't rely on just having one really great question. I used to write 10 because if you're way down the list and someone's already asked all those questions, and your turn is coming, the anxiety is rising, you've still got to come up with something.